Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Okay.
It's all about Ayn Rand and
Right.
her philosophy, and in particular, her ideas about happiness.
It's interesting.
And specifically this idea that happiness is actually the moral purpose of life. So Ayn Rand and her philosophy of objectivism can be pretty divisive for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
But even if you've never read Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead,
Right.
I think her ideas about happiness are
Yeah.
thought-provoking, to say the least.
Definitely.
So what do you think? What's so interesting about Ayn Rand's take on happiness?
I think what's so compelling about Rand's approach to happiness is that she doesn't see it as just some fleeting feeling,
Right.
or like a stroke of luck.
Yeah.
It's an achievement for her.
Okay.
It's something you actively create by aligning your life with what she calls rational values. Okay, so we're not talking about just like winning the lottery or...
Having a good hair day.
Exactly.
Right.
It's something...
It's much deeper.
Much deeper.
Yeah.
So give me an example.
Okay, so think about like a wide-renowned chef
Okay.
who finds true joy, not just in like the accolades and the praise,
Right.
but in the meticulous process of crafting a perfect dish, the creativity, the mastery of technique, the satisfaction of creating something that's both beautiful and delicious.
Yeah.
For Rand, that chef's happiness comes from fulfilling their purpose,
Okay.
their drive to achieve excellence.
So it's an outward expression of their deeply held values.
Yes, sir.
Not just about the external reward, but the internal satisfaction of living in accordance with what you truly value. Now, one of the things that people kind of get a little hung up on with Ayn Rand is this word selfishness.
It's true.
That gets thrown around a lot when you talk about her and her philosophy.
Yeah, it's a loaded term.
Yeah, and for some people, it's kind of
Right.
jarring to hear.
For sure.
So how would you...
Explain that.
For Rand, selfishness wasn't about being like a greedy, inconsiderate jerk.
Okay.
It's more about taking responsibility for your own life and well-being.
Okay.
And recognizing that you have the right to pursue your own goals and values.
It's kind of like that.
You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Yeah. You can't help others if you haven't taken care of yourself first.
Yeah, that's it.
But does that mean that we should just prioritize our own happiness and forget about the needs of others?
That's where rational self-interest comes in.
Okay.
It's not about indulging every whim or desire.
Right.
But it's about making choices that are aligned with your long-term goals and values.
Okay.
And often those values include contributing to the well-being of others.
So it's not like an either-or proposition.
Exactly.
So for Rand, true happiness isn't about isolating yourself or exploiting others.
Right.
It's about recognizing your own worth and striving to live a life of purpose and meaning. And often that involves creating value for others, whether it's through your work, your relationships, or contributions to society.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting in the source material that we were looking at was this phrase, whim worship.
Oh, yeah?
What did she mean by that?
It's a pretty evocative phrase.
Yeah. It sounds kind of cultish.
It is. It perfectly captures what Rand saw as a major obstacle to happiness.
Okay.
This tendency to constantly chase fleeting desires and impulses without considering the long-term consequences.
So like somebody who's constantly hopping from one get-rich-quick scheme to the next?
Yeah, like always chasing that next dopamine hit, but never really finding true satisfaction or fulfillment.
So it's not about denying yourself pleasure or joy, but it's about being...
It's about being discerning, right?
Yeah.
Choosing the things that are truly aligned with your values and contribute to your long-term well-being.
So you're in the driver's seat of your life. Yeah. You're making conscious choices.
Exactly.
Not just being controlled by your impulses. So that brings us to another key concept, purpose.
Okay.
What did Ayn Rand see as the role of purpose in achieving happiness?
Well, for Rand, purpose was more than just a to-do list, or a set of goals. It was about finding something that truly ignited your passion and gave your life meaning. And often she believed this purpose was found in work that allowed individuals to express their creativity and make a tangible contribution to the world.
So think of like an architect designing a skyscraper or an entrepreneur building a business.
Yeah, like building something from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that Rand wasn't just advocating for a world full of CEOs and artists, you know?
Yeah.
She believed that purpose could be found in any number of professions, as long as the individual felt a sense of ownership and pride in their work.
But, I mean, not everybody is lucky enough to,
Right.
you know, find a job that they love.
That's true.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are working jobs that they don't necessarily love just to make ends meet.
Sure.
So how does that fit into her philosophy?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think Rand would acknowledge.
Okay.
You know, she wouldn't argue that everyone needs to quit their day jobs and pursue their passions.
Yeah.
But she would likely say that even within those seemingly mundane jobs, there's always room for personal growth and a sense of accomplishment.
Okay.
Maybe it's about mastering a particular skill, finding creative solutions to problems, or simply taking pride in doing your job well.
So even if your work isn't necessarily your passion, you can still find purpose and meaning in how you approach it.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe that seemingly unfulfilling job could be a stepping stone to something more aligned with your passions in the future.
Okay.
For Rand, it was about making the most of every situation and always striving for excellence, even in the smallest of tasks.
But this all sounds very individualistic.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we reconcile this focus on individual achievement with the need for a functioning society?
Sure.
We can't all just be lone wolves pursuing our own happiness.
That's a valid point, and it brings us to another crucial aspect of Rand's philosophy.
Okay.
The importance of individual rights and freedom.
Okay.
Rand believed that individuals could only truly flourish and pursue their happiness in a society that respected their right to think, act, and create.
So she saw a connection between
She did.
individual freedom and societal progress.
Absolutely.
And this is where her support for capitalism comes in.
Yes, Rand was a staunch advocate for capitalism.
And believed it to be the only system that truly allowed individuals to pursue their self-interest while simultaneously benefiting society as a whole.
Exactly.
Now, I know that's a statement that's going to spark some debate.
Of course.
Capitalism has its share of critics.
For sure.
And many would argue that it actually perpetuates inequality and exploitation.
Right.
So how would she respond to that?
Well, Rand would likely argue that those negative outcomes are not inherent to capitalism itself, but rather a result of government interference or cronyism that distorts free markets.
So she believed that a truly free market, where individuals are free to trade and innovate without restrictions, would lead to greater prosperity and opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge that Rand's views on capitalism, like many of her ideas, are complex and open to interpretation.
Yeah, for sure.
But whether you agree with her or not, her work forces us to grapple with these fundamental questions about the role of the individual in society and the nature of a just and prosperous system.
So it seems like a lot of her philosophy hinges on the power of reason.
Yes.
Like if we're just all rational enough, we'll make choices that benefit ourselves and society.
Right.
But is that a little bit of an idealistic?
You're right to point out that Rand's emphasis on reason can come across as somewhat utopian.
A little too optimistic.
She certainly believed in the power of the human mind to overcome challenges and create a better world.
Right.
However, she wasn't naive to the fact that humans are complex creatures, capable of both great good and great evil.
So where does that leave us? I mean, if we can't rely on reason alone to guide our actions, how do we navigate the complexities of life? And
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that philosophers and thinkers have been wrestling with for centuries.
Right.
Rand would likely say that it's a matter of constantly challenging our assumptions, questioning our beliefs, and striving to live consciously. It's about recognizing our own biases, our own limitations, and being willing to course correct when we inevitably stray from the path of reason.
So it's an ongoing process of self-reflection and growth.
Exactly. And for Rand, that process of growth was essential for achieving true happiness.
It's about constantly striving to become the best version of ourselves, both for our own sake and the sake of the world around us. Now, one thing I'm still kind of wondering about is the role of relationships in her philosophy. Because she seems to put so much emphasis on individual achievement that it makes me wonder if there's any room for love and connection and community in her worldview.
Okay.
Does she see those things as important for happiness?
Well, it's true that her philosophy can seem quite individualistic at first glance, but that doesn't mean that she dismissed the importance of human connection.
In fact, she believed that strong, healthy relationships could be a source of immense joy and fulfillment.
So it's not about rejecting relationships altogether?
Not at all.
Okay.
For Rand, it was about choosing those relationships carefully, based on mutual respect, shared values, and a genuine sense of connection.
So like the friendships between...
Yeah. Think about
the creative minds in her novels?
Exactly. They challenge each other. They inspire each other, pushing each other to greater heights.
They're all striving for that excellence.
It's that kind of deep connection based on mutual admiration and a shared pursuit of excellence. That's what she valued.
So it's not about needing others to complete us, but about finding people who complement and enhance our lives.
Yes. Rand would argue that we should choose our relationships, just as we choose our careers and our values, with intention and a focus on what truly serves us.
So it's not about living in isolation.
No, but being very intentional about who you let into your life.
Exactly. She wasn't advocating for a life of isolation, but for a life where our connections with others are a source of strength and inspiration.
Not a drain.
Not a drain on our energy or a compromise of our values.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that makes a lot of sense, but relationships can be messy.
It can be.
Even the healthiest ones have their challenges.
Sure.
So how do we deal with the inevitable conflicts and compromises that arise?
Rand believed that healthy relationships require clear communication, honesty, and a willingness to negotiate and compromise. However, she would also caution against sacrificing one's core values or sense of self for the sake of maintaining a relationship.
Yeah, you can't lose yourself in a relationship. That's not healthy.
It's about finding that balance between meeting your own needs and being considerate of the needs of the other person.
So finding that sweet spot where both individuals feel respected and valued and the relationship enhances their lives rather than diminishes them.
And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us, regardless of where we stand on the rest of Rand's philosophy. Learning to navigate relationships with honesty, integrity, and a healthy dose of self-respect is essential for both individual and collective well-being.
So as we wrap up here, one thing that I'm struck by is how much her philosophy challenges us to really take ownership.
It does.
Of our own lives.
It does.
It's not about waiting for happiness to happen. It's about creating it.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices and taking action.
So if we were to distill all of this down to one key takeaway, what would it be?
I think I would say that happiness is not a destination. It's a journey. It's about constantly striving to live consciously, to align our actions with our values, and to create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't agree with all of her ideas, there's something very empowering about her message. It's a reminder that we have more control over our own happiness than we realize.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been another fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.